Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. Imagine this. It's just after sunset and you're home winding down from the day when you hear something softly thunk against your door. Not a knock, not mail, something older. A sound from before the internet. You go to check, and there it is, a thick envelope sealed with wax and bound in ribbon faintly warm to the touch. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you've had a strange dream lately and that stuck with you, drop it in the comments. I always read them. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit down with the envelope in your lap. The paper is a deep navy blue, just a hint velvety, and the wax seal looks like a clock face. But the numbers are in no order you recognize. You peel it open. A note inside, written in iridescent ink, reads, "You are cordially invited to the Time Hotel. One night only. All eras welcome. Dress however you please. No location, no RSVP. Just a silver key, cold as moonlight tied with red string." You turn it over in your hand. There's a number etched into it. Room 333, but no address. You lean back puzzled until you hear something strange. The ticking of 100 clocks. But there are no clocks in your home. None that tick. You glance at your door again, and this time, it's not your door. It's an archway. A carved wooden arch, like something from an old train station or a dusty opera house. And beyond it, softly lit a hallway where the walls breathe faintly and smell like cedar and ozone. You're not entirely sure what you're stepping into. But the key warms in your hand, like it's glad you're here. The hallway leads you past velvet curtains, old chandeliers and windows that show the wrong sky, stars where there should be rooftops, a comet streaking by as if late to something. You feel the tug of curiosity more than caution. A small plaque on the wall reads, "Time Hotel founded simultaneously in 1394, 1856, and 2112. You find the front desk. Behind it is a woman wearing a gown stitched from sundials, abacuses, and light. Her hair is a soft shade of autumn, and it seems to change slightly with each blink. "Ah," she says, smiling in a way that seems to stretch into other moments. "You've arrived early, late, and right on time." You nod like you understand. She hands you a small brass card and slides a ledger across the desk for you to sign. The pen she gives you hums. The ink smells faintly of cinnamon and static. Name yours. Time of check-in, it fills itself in. Just says, "Tonight." She gestures to an old elevator with accordion doors and buttons labeled not with numbers but with events. First dream, last sunset, almost missed. You press first dream. The elevator sighs like it's relieved and shudders gently upward or sideways. You can't really tell. When the doors open again, the hallway has changed. It's lined with grandfather clocks, but their pendulums swing backward. Soft music plays harpsichord jazz, and the carpets are stitched with constellations from no sky you've ever seen. You walk, and your footsteps sound like pages turning. A small automaton, polished brass, shaped like a raccoon in a bellhop hat, scampers out and beckons you with a tiny claw. You follow. It leads you past a parlor where an 18th century gentleman and a woman in a spacesuit sips something fizzy from porcelain cups. Finally, the automaton stops at a door marked 33. The key still feels warm in your hand. You unlock it. Inside a room that cannot make up its mind. To your left, the walls are papered in deep emerald, and candlelit sconces flicker above an ornate fireplace. To the right, it's all chrome and fiber optic lines, with a ceiling that displays constellations in real time. There's a gramophone and a floating speaker, both playing the same lullaby in different textures. You blink, and the view out the window flickers, now a medieval village under a full moon, now a neon skyline, now the deck of a ship lost at sea. There's a robe waiting for you on the bed. It changes color depending on how you feel. You touch it blue, calm, a little curious, a lot enchanted. On the writing desk, another card. Welcome, traveler. Please join us in the grand lobby when the clock strikes maybe. Until then, rest as needed. All times exist here. Yours too. You pour yourself a cup of something from the carafe. It smells like tea, tastes like memory, and sit by the fireplace, which now crackles with quiet blue flames. You swear the shadows in the corner are dancing to the music politely, as if not to disturb. You don't know who else is staying tonight or what awaits. But you're certain of one thing. Time has let go of your wrist, and for the first time in a long time, you feel gently, perfectly untethered. You sit for a while in the corner chair, an oddly regal thing. Its legs carved like lions, its cushions stitched from both velvet and something that hums softly under your weight. Your tea still steams faintly on the end table. The scent shifts as it cools, first like petrichor, then like old paper, and now somehow freshly baked gingerbread. It's easy to lose track of how long you sit there. That seems to be the point. A soft chime sounds, not from the clock, which remains defiantly stuck between two hands, but from the hallway. Like a note from a glockenspiel being politely struck once as if to say, whenever you're ready. You step back into the corridor, your shoes sinking into a floor that feels more like moss than carpet. The hallway has subtly shifted. The grandfather clocks are still here, but now they seem taller, and one of them nods as you pass in a way that makes you wonder if it's alive or just extremely well balanced. When you reach the elevator, it's no longer where you left it. Instead, a revolving door has appeared, though it's made of mirror glass and faintly glows with the pulse of a living heart. You hesitate, then push. And just like that, you're in the grand lobby. It's a cathedral-sized space with walls that refuse to be one era. On the left, Greek columns wrapped in flowering vines frame an archway that opens to a rain-drenched Renaissance courtyard. To the right, a soft whir of vacuum tubes and blinking panels under a stained glass ceiling that depicts constellations shaped like forgotten emotions. Overhead, the chandelier is made entirely of hourglasses, and they all run in different directions. A tall, oval-faced man in what appears to be a toga over a pinstripe suit approaches with a clipboard made of slate. Room 333, he says, flipping through pages that seem to be handwritten, punched with binary, and inked in golden thread all at once. Ah, yes, checked in exactly when we thought. Lovely. You offer a polite nod, trying not to stare at the woman next to him, who seems to be wearing a robe that flickers between lab coat and medieval surcoat depending on where you stand. I'm afraid your bellhop has a bit of a delay in the early 1700s. So I'll take you myself, he says, and gestures toward a wide marble staircase that curves upward and also somehow downward. You follow. The staircase defies logic in the gentlest possible way. Sometimes you ascend, sometimes descend. Sometimes it simply spirals in place, and you could swear at one point it rotates sideways, like a lazy Ferris wheel. But your guide seems unbothered. I'm Cassian, he says, stepping lightly on each glowing stair. Head of guest orientation, formerly from the year 2417, or possibly the Roman Republic. The timeline's been edited. You nod again, as if any of that makes perfect sense. We do ask that guests refrain from altering their own timelines while staying here. He continues, gesturing at a sign that reads, "No unscheduling, no de-aging potions in the pool. No trading historical spoilers before dessert." You pass a hallway labeled Extinct Holidays, where an enthusiastic couple in Victorian swimwear plays badminton with floating paper lanterns. One of them waves. Another hallway smells strongly of popcorn and lightning. The plaque reads, "Abandoned Futures." Finally, Cassian stops at a landing where three doors intersect in a triangle. Most guests choose one, he says. You may take all three. Room 33 is in all of them. You open the first door. It's a hallway made entirely of gears, massive brass and copper things, slowly turning with no sound at all. In the second hallway, vines grow from the floor and fireflies blink out lullabies. In the third, gravity feels off. You float slightly, as if the air is considering letting you fly. You take the second. Inside a corridor that smells like clean linen, rain-soaked stone and the sharp scent of ink. Guests drift past you, some dressed in furs and carrying stone tools. Others with eyes glowing faintly blue. One woman reads aloud from a scroll, that writes itself as she speaks. At the end of the hall, Cassian opens a door and bows. Your new room. This one's larger than the last. This one seems to breathe. The walls rise and fall subtly, as if the room itself were a living creature, slumbering peacefully. There are books on the shelves, some in languages you've never seen one in Morse code stitched into silk. A desk lamp pulses in rhythm with your breath. A ceiling fan spins lazily shaped like a compass that refuses to choose a north. Please make yourself comfortable, Cassian says. The mingling hour begins at maybe -15. You'll know when that is. And with a wink that seems to take several seconds, he's gone. You take a moment to explore. The wardrobe offers a variety of garments. Elizabethan rough space explorer's jacket. Flannel pajamas labeled 1937. Worn once by a sleepy inventor. You opt for a robe made of cloud fabric. It smells like thunderstorms and sugar. There's a drawer labeled keepsakes you haven't made yet. You leave it alone, for now. A tablet-sized device on the bedside table flickers to life. It shows a map of the hotel. You zoom in and see strange places. The Chrono Conservatory. The basement of unsent letters. The Hall of Imagined Departures. One room is simply labeled the room you thought you'd forgotten. You lie down for a moment, not to sleep, just to exist. You are in a place that defies time, built from centuries like bricks, each one humming softly with memory and mischief. And tonight, you belong here. The moment you step back into the grand lobby, something has shifted. Not visibly, not even audibly, but deep down, in the gentle tick of your breath and the slow tilt of your balance. You're beginning to realize that in this place, each return is to a slightly different version of the same moment. The ceiling still glitters with its great chandelier of hourglasses. But now, each glass seems to contain not sand, but something glowing, swirling like memory dust and warm snow. One of them tilts as you pass beneath, and you feel a faint breeze against your cheek, like the ghost of a bedtime story someone once told you under a summer sheet. Footsteps echo ahead, then behind, then beside you, though no one seems to be walking. The sound here has a personality. You're not sure if the lobby is humming in welcome or politely studying your shoes. Either way, you stroll with care. You pass a wall of clocks that span civilizations. Some chime gently, while others vibrate softly like tuning forks. There's a Sumerian water clock dripping steadily into a copper bowl beside a wristwatch from 2046 that floats mid-air and plays Debussy when the second hand hits 12. You glance to your left there, sitting in a velvet armchair shaped like a calligraphy swirl. A person dressed in what looks like an Elizabethan collar made entirely of credit cards is playing chess against a cat wearing spectacles. The cat meows every few moves. You could swear the score is tied. To your right, a narrow hallway labeled Echo Archive beckons. A couple strolls out of it arm in arm, giggling as if they'd just heard something outrageous from their own past selves. The hallway behind them disappears as they leave, like it's embarrassed to have been seen. The concierge, this time, a slender person made of mirrors and eucalyptus branches, nods at you as you pass. You nod back because, frankly, politeness seems to matter here. You get the impression that rudeness might echo for centuries in a place like this. At the center of the grand lobby, there is a platform surrounded by ticking metronomes, each set to a different rhythm. On it stands a curious piece of furniture, half throne, half beanbag chair, upholstered in materials you don't quite recognize. Sitting upon it is an elderly woman with weather in her eyes. Actual weather. One eye holds a thunderstorm, the other a very patient sunrise. She notices you. "Well, look at you," she says with a grin that shows too many memories to count. "You've still got that new time smell." You chuckle because it seems expected, and oddly, you do smell something unfamiliar on yourself, like ozone and cardamom and a little ink. She gestures to a small podium beside her, where a feathered hat floats gently above a guest book. "Go on," she says. "Log your first impression." You lean over the book, which opens on its own. The pages are blank until you touch the quill. Then it writes for you. "Today, I walked into a hotel stitched from every century I've ever forgotten. The clocks know more than they let on. Also, someone offered me tea made of moonlight and regret, and it tasted like home." Like, you blink. You hadn't written that, but you do remember thinking it. The old woman laughs softly. "You'll get used to that." Just then, a trolley rolls by on its own. No one pushing, no wheels, moving laden with drinks labeled moments, whispers, and almost. You take a crystal flute filled with almost. It fizzes like soda, but tastes like the last 5 minutes of a really good nap. Behind you, music starts. Not from an orchestra, but from the room itself. Somewhere near the columns, a clock chimes midnight, but it's a midnight not necessarily yours. The chandeliers pulse gently in time. A nearby parlor glows to life. Inside, a woman in a sari woven with constellations discusses string theory with a monk holding a Rubik's Cube. Behind them, a fireplace flickers with what appears to be a moving picture show of prehistoric jellyfish dancing ballet. You wander again past display cases containing objects labeled with dates that haven't happened yet. A set of ballet slippers from 192. A worn leather glove from March 3rd, when she finally waved goodbye. A snow globe marked the first time it snowed on Mars. You rest on a bench that grows warmer the longer you sit. Someone nearby is laughing in a language that sounds like wind through pine needles. A woman in a suit made of folded calendars adjusts a grandfather clock's pendulum, then bows to it apologetically. And just when you think you've seen the strangest part of the grand lobby. The floor opens up beneath a large rug near the fire. A spiral staircase made entirely of polished fossils rises, like it's just finished growing. Two figures, one dressed like an Art Deco bellhop, the other in a holographic hoodie, climb out chatting about the best time to see a total eclipse in Paris. The 1927 one was apparently a little too dramatic. A pocket-sized bell chimes somewhere overhead. Not loud, just enough to nudge your gaze toward a small sign written in shimmering cursive. Welcome to the intersection of then, now, and almost. Tea will be served when the sky says so. And indeed, if you look closely, the ceiling is now slowly rotating between various skies. Sunset eclipse, aurora borealis. A sky filled with twin moons. And now something soft and periwinkle blue, dotted with fireflies the size of hummingbirds. You don't know where to go next, but the floor beneath you hums your cup of almost is still pleasantly full, and your sense of time has dissolved like sugar in warm milk. You are exactly where you're not supposed to be, which is somehow exactly right. The hallway to your room feels subtly different than it did earlier, as though the hotel has tilted slightly on its axis and settled into a new rhythm. The clocks on the walls are still ticking, but not in sync. Each one seems to honor its own tempo, as if refusing to conform to a single second. You glance at the wall plaque again, room 333. Still your room, but even the plaque seems to shimmer more than before, as though its brass is catching glints of time rather than light. You turn the key. The door sighs open with the softness of a fond memory. Inside the room is waiting, and it has changed. Not dramatically. Your belongings are still where you left them. The robe of cloud fabric now draped over the foot of the bed. The glass of memory tea still faintly warm on the table, but the atmosphere feels tuned to a new channel. This time, your attention is drawn to the window. When you first arrived, it showed a medieval village under a silver moon. Now it's Paris, but not the Paris you know. There are zeppelins in the sky, neon signs in cursive French script, and people wearing bowler hats with blinking antennae. One of the cafes across the street has no walls and appears to serve customers both on horseback and hoverboards. You press your hand gently to the window. The view flickers. Now it's a vast grassland, no buildings in sight, just tall golden waves of wheat under a peach-colored sky. Something roams across the field, slow and gentle, like a woolly mammoth, but with wings. The view flickers again. You see a jungle, thick blue-green vines hanging like chandeliers, and a temple in the distance made of glass and bone. You blink, and this time the window blinks back. You step closer. There's a chair positioned by the glass. It wasn't there before. It's shaped like a crescent moon and upholstered in woven fog. You sit, and the view begins to respond. Now it's snow. Not falling, just suspended mid-air, mid-twirl, mid-thought. A city beneath it, with copper roofs and spiral chimneys, a warm light flickering behind every window. You can almost hear the bells. Then a desert. Not hot, not harsh. Soft dunes like velvet under a lavender sunset. In the distance, people ride tall, graceful birds with long scarves trailing behind them. You lean back. The chair hums lightly, as if pleased with your stillness. On the table beside you is a small note you hadn't seen before, folded origami style into the shape of a hummingbird. It flutters once when you touch it and unfolds. The window responds to memory or mood, or maybe something you haven't named yet. You grin. Of course it does. The room begins to shift with you. Not just the window. Now the sounds in the background soften into lullabies you don't quite recognize, but instantly trust. A phonograph in the corner begins to spin without a needle. The music that comes out is half melody, half weather. You stand and walk the room slowly. To your right, a painting now glows faintly. It wasn't glowing before. It shows a staircase that ends in a mirror that reflects a different room than your own. You watch, and a figure walks past inside the mirror. It's wearing your robe. The mirror in the bathroom fogs itself, then clears, then fogs again. You haven't showered. It's just showing what might happen next. There's a bookshelf by the bed. You pull a random title, an atlas of all the places you nearly visited. The cover is velvet soft. The pages are blank until you think of somewhere you always meant to go. Kyoto in spring, Patagonia in autumn. A diner in Milwaukee. You once passed at 2 a.m. but never entered. As soon as the thought forms, ink blossoms across the page, sketching maps of paths not taken. The bed fluffs itself gently, the pillows aligning to your posture as you pass. The comforter changes color peach when you're happy, deep gray when your breath slows. You test it. It's accurate. From the corner of your eye, the window pulses again. This time, it shows a sky made entirely of jellyfish. Their translucent bodies float through clouds, bioluminescent tendrils brushing gently against moonlight. Beneath them, a silver sea, where boats are rowed not by people but by trees with arms. You place your hand on the window. It feels warm now, responsive, then soft knocking. You turn. The door opens, just a crack. No one there, but a voice floats in. Low, amused, unmistakably polite. Evening. Lobby gathering begins soon. The sky has given its approval. Hope you're still curious. The voice disappears with a chuckle and the faint scent of toasted almonds. You dress again, not because you need to, but because you want to. The robe feels just as cloud-like as before. You slip your feet into slippers that have conveniently appeared, shaped like crescent moons, souls made of woven lullaby. Before leaving, you glance back at the window one more time. It now shows your own neighborhood, but decades ago. There's a car parked outside that hasn't existed since the 70s. A child runs past in a windbreaker, her laughter familiar. Too familiar. You blink again, and the view dissolves into stars. You smile. Some rooms are built for sleep. This one was built for wonder. And the night is just beginning. You follow the hallway out of your room, slippers whispering across the floor like secret thoughts. The walls are humming now, not loudly, just gently, like they're singing to themselves about something long ago or very far ahead. Your invitation said tea, but not just any tea. Tea with the Inventor from the year 3020, which in this hotel feels both oddly precise and hilariously vague. You imagine they must have a list of inventors for every millennium, alphabetized by both surname and the emotional impact of their inventions. At the end of the hallway, you see a sign floating in midair. It's made of steam. It reads, Tea Room 734. Please arrive at a time that makes you happiest. You smile because right now feels pretty close to that. You pass through a beaded curtain made of droplets that never fall. They tinkle together like wind chimes dipped in honey, then part to let you in. The room is enormous but cozy. That paradox again. The walls seem to stretch endlessly if you look too long, but when you focus on the table in the middle, it all condenses into something warm and candlelit and entirely manageable. The inventor is already seated. They're tall, lanky, in a comfortably crooked way, wearing a sweater made of light tiny points. Of it flicker like fireflies under a knit pattern that resembles a galaxy half remembered. Their hair is translucent, not white, not silver. More like the texture of clouds right before a thunderstorm. But with no storm in sight, you're just in time. They say, grinning like they've been waiting exactly 3 days and also 0 minutes. The table is set with impossible precision. Teacups hover an inch above their saucers. The steam rising from the kettle forms polite geometric spirals in midair. Sugar cubes hover in a bowl and rearrange themselves depending on who's looking at them. When you blink, you think you see the word welcome spelled out in steam. You sit. The chair molds itself to your comfort level with a sigh of approval. Let's begin, says the inventor. You'll be having the brew that matches your earliest memory. They reach toward the kettle, not with hands, but with thought. The kettle lifts, pours itself. The tea lands in your cup in a way that's far more graceful than anything gravity should allow. The cup glows faintly like the color of sunrise behind your eyelids. You sip. It tastes like old quilted blankets, like the smell of crayons, like the sound of your mother singing off-key while folding laundry. It doesn't taste good in a traditional sense. It tastes correct. I call that one nostalgia type 9, the inventor says. It's calibrated for people who used to hide under tables during dinner parties. You nearly spit your tea. How did you? Oh, we ran that version of you. Briefly. It was charming. The inventor pours their own cup an entirely different liquid. This one emits soft bubbles that sound like laughter underwater. They take a sip and sigh happily. I invented this one. After the 7th time, I fell in love with the same person, just in different centuries. It's a blend of repetition, hesitation, and champagne. The table rearranges itself. A tiny carousel rises from the center, spinning slowly. Instead of horses, it has moments. Your first school notebook, a key. You never found the lock for a birthday cake with no candles because they were forgotten. But it was still perfect somehow. Why tea, you ask? The inventor grins. Because tea is slow. It respects the boil. Coffee rushes, soda fizzes and forgets. But tea listens. They lean in as if sharing a secret. I once built a machine that allowed people to speak directly to their past selves. Only one sentence, no exceptions. Do you know what 78% of them said? You shake your head. They said, "Make more time for tea." They chuckle. Do you know what the other 22% said? You lean in. "Don't date Terence." You both laugh. A second teapot floats down. This one's transparent and filled with a glowing, translucent blue brew that swirls as if it's dreaming. The inventor gestures at it. This is tomorrow tea. Tastes different depending on what kind of day you want next. You're curious. You take a sip. Immediately, you feel your bones lighten. Not literally, but something inside you lifts like the weight of next Tuesday has been temporarily cancelled. You think about gardens you haven't planted yet, projects you haven't started but already believe in, conversations that end in shared laughter. How did you get here, you ask? The hotel, the inventor says, raising one glowing eyebrow. Ah, it finds you when time begins to forgive you. You frown slightly, unsure what that means. But it settles somewhere deep inside your chest, like a pebble dropped into a still lake. A small ripple that doesn't ask to be solved. The inventor stirs their tea with a spoon that plays lullabies when it moves. I once made a calendar that counted emotions instead of days. The hotel hated it. It said it gave guests headaches. You chuckle. The room grows quieter, more intimate. You'll meet them all soon, the inventor says, glancing at a golden pocket watch with no hands. Just colors that slowly shift. The guests from elsewhere. You like the ones from before math. Very fond of candlelight and parables. You want to stay here forever. In this room, with this strange starry person and their impossible tea. But something shifts outside. The window flickers again briefly, showing a grand ballroom filled with dancers. Glowing shoes, laughing masks. The sky beyond them raining constellations. The inventor sees it too. Ah, they say, draining the last of their cup. Time's nudging you forward. Don't keep the dancers waiting. You rise. You thank them. You don't know how. Words feel too modern. You just nod, and so do they. As you leave, the inventor offers one last gift, a small silver spoon engraved with a word you've never seen before, but somehow understand to mean pause. And tucked into your robe pocket, a tea bag labeled for when you miss this room. You smile and step out into the hall. The party is waiting, and the next hour apparently is made of silk and laughter. You step into a hallway labeled Wings by Era, the words carved in dark wood and surrounded by slow-turning pocket watches. An arrow points left, prehistoric wing. Another points right, far futures. But the one that glows gently is ahead, 1800s, wing, afternoon only. It's late evening technically, but when you walk forward, the very air adjusts around you. Sunlight. Real, golden slanting sunlight spills through tall, mullioned windows. It's not like the artificial lighting in museums or movie sets. This is actual afternoon. Somewhere, birds are chirping. There's the scent of rosewater and pressed linen. And you notice it immediately, the dignified quiet of a time that still writes letters with ink pens. The corridor transforms beneath your feet. Cobblestones soften into smooth stone tiles. The wallpaper grows floral, but gently, so like forget-me-nots pressed between diary pages. Gas lamps line the walls and flicker with approval as you pass. You feel different. Your stride slows naturally. Your back straightens a bit. You're not quite in costume, but your robe, which just moments ago felt soft and modern, now drapes like it belongs in a Jane Austen adaptation. Even your shoes sound a little more formal on the stone. The first room on your left is labeled the Gloved Library. You peek in. It's quiet. Massive windows throw light across high shelves of leather-bound volumes. At every table, guests sit reading with white gloves on some sipping tea. Others writing in notebooks with feather quills that write just ahead of their thoughts. One man appears to be taking dictation from a raven perched on his shoulder. The raven wears spectacles. You move on. The hallway bends into a little courtyard. Yes, inside the wing. There's a fountain gurgling gently, surrounded by wrought iron benches and trimmed hedges shaped like commas and ampersands. A woman in a crinoline dress and steampunk goggles waves at you, while feeding a squirrel tiny crumpets from a silver tray. She smiles. Weather's holding quite nicely. You're here for the promenade, I hope. You nod, because somehow you are. The path continues through a set of French doors into a drawing room with parquet floors and walls the color of chamomile. Soft music filters through a string quartet, playing what sounds suspiciously like a classical arrangement of a 1990s pop ballad. The people here are lounging, chatting, sketching. A man in a frock coat adjusts a sundial wristwatch. A child offers you a lemon drop from a porcelain bowl and warns very seriously that it may cause temporary nostalgia. You accept it. He's right. It tastes like the feeling of falling asleep on your grandmother's couch while the adults argue quietly in the next room. Outside again, you enter what must be the garden of minor happenings. Every flower here has a name tag, but instead of botanical names, they list specific moments. First time you wrote with a fountain pen. The hour before a rainstorm in 1874. That afternoon, you nearly decided to move to Prague. You crouch beside one labeled unsent letter. March 12th, 1862. It smells like lilacs, ink, and hesitation. A gardener in a waistcoat offers you a rose. It's Tuesday evening kindness. Rare breed. Blooms when someone forgives a stranger. You take it. It hums faintly in your hand. The path curves into a narrow street where gas lamps stretch into the distance and horse-drawn carriages glide silently, their hooves muffled as though edited for sleep friendliness. A man doffs his hat as he passes and mutters, "Lovely hour to be loosely tethered to the present." Don't you think? You couldn't agree more. A small bakery on the corner waves its scent toward you, warm bread apricot glaze. Something faintly cinnamony. You step in. The baker is a woman with ink-stained hands and a soft accent that sounds like bedtime stories. Would you like a memory scone or a biscuit of imagined futures? She asks. You try both. The scone crumbles gently and tastes like the first day of school you were excited about. The biscuit, like the book you haven't written yet, but one day might. Back outside, you pause on a wooden bench beneath a flowering tree labeled "Evening Primrose Opens for Solitude." A breeze passes. Someone's playing piano nearby gently, like they're remembering the melody as they go. Each note lands softly like a footfall on old floorboards. You check the little pocket watch that wasn't in your hand a moment ago. The hands spin like dancers, then freeze at the exact moment you feel most at ease. That moment is now. Just as you rise, a man in a three-piece suit with brass buttons steps out of a nearby shop. "You're needed at the ballroom," he says pleasantly, holding a calling card between two fingers. The hour has grown giddy. You glance down at the card. It reads, "Masquerade of Time." Attire anything that ever made you feel like yourself. He tips his hat, turns on his heel, and vanishes into a puff of peppermint smoke. You smile. Of course. You take one last look at the 1800s wing, the sunlight still glowing like softened butter, the gas lamps nodding politely, the roses humming lullabies of days long past and barely remembered. And then you step into the corridor again, already hearing distant music. The ball awaits, and time is dressing up for the occasion. The music grows louder as you approach a wide corridor that seems to argue with itself architecturally. One half of the hallway is a vision of deco elegance, lacquered black floors, gilded light fixtures, geometric wallpaper gleaming like melted moonlight. The other half, brutalist concrete arches faintly humming with fluorescent disapproval. You glance from one side to the other and can't decide if the hallway is about to host a fashion show or a revolution. A sign swings lazily from the ceiling, caught in a breeze that has no origin. Caution minor, temporal disagreement ahead. Proceed with an open mind. You do. At first, the tension is subtle. A strange flickering in the sconces. An air of passive-aggressive temperature changes. You step over the seam where decades disagree and feel the oddest shiver, like being simultaneously applauded and tutted at by invisible critics. Then the voices begin, not angry, not even loud, just persistent. From behind the ornate velvet curtain of a 1920s tea salon, a dapper gentleman insists that jazz is the peak of human civilization. From a sleek chrome doorway labeled Post-Industrial Lounge, a tall woman in translucent clothing counters. Jazz was cute. But wait until you hear what silence does. In 2301, between them, a waiter who seems to be made entirely of archived newsletters tries to pour you something that smells like diplomacy and chamomile. Don't mind them, he says as he hands you a teacup. It's the monthly debate. We just didn't expect a guest to wander through in the middle of it. Your tea reads neutral ground when you look into it. You sip anyway. It tastes like rain on aluminum and a hint of lemon zest. Unexpectedly good. Farther down the corridor, a man with a monocle is gesturing animatedly toward a trio of holograms. In my day, he insists, we cured boredom with ballroom dances and spontaneous poetry. One of the holograms smirks and replies, in your day, people fainted from tight corsets and used arsenic as skincare. The monocle fogs briefly. Well, style has its costs. The air crackled slightly. You walk past a pair of young timekeepers, trying to untangle an argument between the 1600s and the 70s. On one side, powdered wigs. On the other, bell-bottoms. A lava lamp bubbles furiously beside a baroque harpsichord that seems to be sulking. We can't play both at once. One of the timekeepers groans, the other sighs. Tell that to the guests. At the center of the corridor, the floor opens into a small amphitheater surrounded by a soft buzz of disagreement. The seats are filled with curious figures from every era, a pharaoh consulting an AI orb, a Victorian ghost with a tablet, a cave woman sketching something on a glowing whiteboard while eating biscotti. At the heart of the gathering, a large hourglass spins slowly, not vertically but horizontally, as if time itself can't decide which direction to settle. A moderator wearing a cloak made of old calendars and receipts clears their throat. Tonight's topic: which era best understood the art of leisure? All rebuttals must be poetic or served with snacks. A gasp. Applause. A woman from the 1920s wing stands first. She speaks in couplets and carries a teacup. We lounged with books, with gloves and lace, and left our worries at the fireplace. Then Someone from the late 2500s responds via scent. The air fills with something like toasted pears and velvet rain. Everyone sighs involuntarily. You find a seat between a Roman senator knitting with glow thread and a medieval nun sipping something carbonated through a gold straw. First time the nun asks without looking. You nod. Just agree with everyone. It's the only polite option. At some point, someone hands out time pastries. Each bite is a microcosm, sunrise, deadline, forgiveness, nap. You try one shaped like an hour hand. It tastes like the relief of finishing something important, followed by the cozy emptiness of not knowing what's next. The debate intensifies, but never unkindly. One figure argues in mime. Another holds up a pie chart drawn on actual pie. A philosopher from the 1890s insists that leisure was best achieved by taking long melancholic walks in terrible weather. A person from the year 5000 counters with a hologram of a day with absolutely nothing scheduled and a chair that changes shape based on your mood. They both receive polite claps. You notice as the evening continues that the eras aren't so much disagreeing as performing disagreement, like dinner theater. They bicker, yes, but only to keep the air lively, the minds alert, and the snacks circulating. Eventually, the moderator raises their arms and a hush falls. In conclusion, they announce leisure like time is best enjoyed when it forgets itself. The crowd murmurs agreement. One final tray of tea circles the amphitheater. You sip yours. This one tastes like the very end of a good book. The guests begin to disperse, some vanishing into doorways made of fog, others stepping into photographs that collapse into themselves. You linger for a moment. A nearby wall is covered in clocks again. One of them is ticking backward. Another spins slowly with only one hand labeled maybe. Another chimes with laughter instead of bells. A small card near the exit reads, "You may now proceed to the ballroom. Your mask is waiting. Your era is optional." You step forward. The door opens without your touch, and the music begins again. You leave the amphitheater of arguing eras behind your fingers, still sticky with the memory of time pastries and paradoxical tea. The hallway ahead curves gently, like a question someone never finished asking. Overhead, the lights dim just enough to let the shadows grow whimsical, but not menacing. You sense the hotel subtly adjusting its tempo again, now less ballroom, more corridor lullaby. You walk until you reach a wall, or rather, what first appears to be a wall. On closer inspection, it's a pair of doors made entirely from old maps' creases and all stitched together like quilt panels. Mountains line the top-edge train routes, and sea currents form intricate scrollwork around the corners. The doors seem to breathe slightly, as if anticipating your curiosity. A small brass plaque reads, "Elevator 4C, for journeys not measured in altitude." Please keep your expectations within reason. You press the call button. Nothing happens for a moment. Then ding. The doors slide open with the hesitant grace of a diary being read aloud for the first time. Inside the elevator is wider than it is deep, a luxurious sideways salon. A velvet chaise lounges at the center. There's a potted plant reading a newspaper in one corner. The walls are paneled in polished wood, engraved with meandering paths and forked trails that change when you blink. You step in. The doors sigh closed behind you, and instead of the usual upward lurch, the entire room begins to glide sideways. Not abruptly, not with any sense of rush. It's more like being nudged gently by a thoughtful breeze. There's no panel of floor numbers. Instead, a soft female voice with the faint accent of someone who's learned to speak in poems says, "Please relax. You are now gliding between destinations of comparable emotional intensity." You sink into the chaise, which adjusts itself in real time based on how much wonder you're currently feeling. Your slippers rest on a pillow that was not there moments ago. The elevator continues its tranquil glide, and the plant in the corner folds its newspaper and nods politely. The walls begin to shimmer. You see them now, not mirrors, not quite windows either, but glimpses. Scenes slide past as if being shown by an agreeable dream. A narrow alleyway lit only by candlelight where cats in waistcoats trade secrets for sardines. A schoolroom in the clouds where children learn to speak in constellations. An underground tavern in ancient Babylon where philosophers arm wrestle poets under carved moons. A laundry line strung between stars with socks shaped like musical notes fluttering against the black. Each vignette lasts only long enough to make you feel something curiosity calm, longing a soft ache for a place you've never been, but already miss. The voice speaks again. Next stop, the ballroom's antechamber. Please check your emotional baggage. You'll only need your curiosity. You smile. The elevator clearly has a sense of humor. To your left, a side table opens like a music box. Inside are masks, rows and rows of them, each one shaped by a different version of you. One is all laughter and freckled sun. Another is carved from moonlight and doubt. One is made entirely of old ticket stubs and sea glass. You pick the one that feels like Tonight Mystery with a hint of nostalgia. As you lift it, it shifts color slightly as though reacting to your breath. The plant coughs discreetly and gestures to a mirror. You glance at your reflection, still you, but with the faint shimmer of a person temporarily between who they were and who they're becoming. The elevator slows. There's no ding this time. Instead, a soft chime like wind passing through piano strings. The doors slide open, not to a floor, but to a garden. Except it isn't quite a garden. It's the ballroom's waiting room, but it looks like a twilight orchard. Trees glow faintly. The grass is soft as velvet. There are chairs carved from lullabies and a punch fountain burbling in the distance, attended by a man in a ruffled tuxedo and roller skates. A sign welcomes you. You've arrived precisely when you meant to. Masks on, hesitations off. Please follow the lanterns to your next becoming. You step out. The elevator behind you purrs and drifts sideways, once more vanishing into the wall like a cat that refuses to explain itself. You follow the lanterns. The grass doesn't bend beneath your feet, it simply accepts you. And in the distance, you hear music begin. A waltz made of clock chimes and starlight. The ball is beginning, and you are not late. The music finds you first. Smooth as silk and strange as a dream you forgot on purpose. It's definitely a waltz, but not any waltz you've heard before. Beneath the sweeping strings, there's a glimmer of something futuristic, a soft electric pulse, a sound like champagne bubbles learning to sing. You walk slowly toward it, your mask in place, your robe now shimmering faintly like it's decided to join the evening's pageantry. The path ahead glows under your feet, not lit exactly, but encouraging, like it approves of your decision to keep going. And then the ballroom. It opens before you like a blooming flower. The ceiling arches impossibly high and disappears into a sky of shifting stars. Not painted stars, real ones. Some blink, some glide. One or two even seem to nod at you. The chandelier is a tangle of jazz notes and silver thread suspended by a gentle act of will. It hums with light, not electricity. The floor gleams, circular, mirrored, and subtly rippling like moonlight over still water. It's impossible to tell where the floor ends and the dancers begin. Everything feels in motion even when it's not. You take your first step in. The room doesn't applaud, but it feels like it might. The dancers whirl around you, and here's where it gets deliciously peculiar. Half the guests are in full 1920s glamour flapper dresses, dripping with fringe tuxedos sharp enough to make time bleed. Marcel waves and monocles. They laugh in that low, smoky way you only hear in old films or dreams that take place inside gramophones. The other half, they're from the 2120s, not what you expect. Their outfits are fluid, literally. Fabrics that respond to emotion, colors that shift mid-sentence. One woman's dress appears to be made entirely of digital jellyfish. A man beside her wears what looks like stardust woven into a blazer with constellations blinking across the lapels. And yet, they dance together. The 1920s and the 2120s. Arm in arm, step by step. No confusion, no fuss. Just rhythm. Just grace. It's as though the dance itself speaks both centuries fluently. And you're being invited to join. A masked figure, tall, laughing eyes, a cane, tipped with an antique camera, extends a hand toward you. You lead? Or shall I? They ask, voice neither male nor female, but comfortably both. You place your hand in theirs. The music lifts. The floor beneath you tilts just slightly, not dangerously, but like it's alive, reacting to the tempo. The two of you begin to move, and suddenly you understand the song. Each step feels like a footnote in history. Every twirl spins through decades. When you move forward, you're in 1927, Art Deco and optimism. When you spin back, it's 2027 climate-regulated cities and poetry grown in hydroponic farms. Someone dances past, holding a champagne flute that refills itself with memory. Another glides by with a mask made of mirror shards, each reflecting a different version of the ballroom. At one point, you lock eyes with a guest whose face is blurred, not pixelated, just indistinct, like a memory not quite yours. They nod at you. It feels like a blessing. You laugh breathless, unsure if it's from dancing or from witnessing 1,000 years of style collide in one perfectly choreographed sentence. A waiter passes balancing a tray of impossible canapes. One tastes like the color gold. Another hums gently as you chew it. One disappears just before you eat it, leaving behind the exact mood of almost. You thank the waiter who bows so deeply, time itself adjusts its posture. As the song shifts to something slower, strings drifting into synths, you wander to the edge of the room. Here, soft lounges float above the floor, rotating lazily. A woman with silver eyes and a great Gatsby haircut offers you a seat beside her. First ball, she asks. You nod. Don't worry, the second one's easier. And the third, you start to wonder if you've always been dancing. You ask her how long she's been here. She smiles. Since last century. Or maybe next. I stopped checking when the hors d'oeuvres started time traveling. She points toward the punch bowl. You watch as a strawberry dives in and re-emerges as a raspberry. You both laugh. Then something catches your attention, an opening in the far wall. A corridor barely noticeable, pulsing gently with light. The woman notices your gaze. Ah, she says. The clockmaker's gallery only opens when someone's ready to remember something they didn't mean to forget. You rise. She squeezes your hand. Leave your mask. The clocks prefer honesty. You walk toward the corridor. The music recedes, replaced by a soft ticking that seems to come from inside your own thoughts. You look back once. The ballroom spins on, full of laughter and centuries of faces, both sharp and soft, real and imagined. Then you step into the gallery, and the clocks begin to listen. The corridor into the clockmaker's gallery feels like the inside of a well-kept secret. Quiet, cool, dimly lit by wall sconces shaped like watch hands. Each one ticking slightly out of sync. You pass beneath a brass arch inscribed with an invitation in careful cursive. Here lie hours misplaced, borrowed, or quietly returned. Please walk slowly. They remember your footsteps. You obey instinctively, softening your tread. The gallery opens into a long vaulted hall. The walls are lined with clocks, not just grandfather clocks or wall clocks, but entire ecosystems of timekeeping. Sundials whisper, pocket watches hang from branches of copper trees. A cuckoo clock flutters its bird halfway out, startled by your presence. It's not noisy, this place. It's a hush made of ticking. The clocks don't strike together. Each keeps its own rhythm, like a room of shy musicians, all playing different lullabies. Some count seconds, others count sighs. One, you're pretty sure, is measuring the lifespan of tea steam. You wander. You pass a grandfather clock with a cracked glass face. The pendulum swings in slow motion, as if unsure whether to finish each arc. Its plaque reads 3:07 a.m., the hour you almost called them. Farther on, you find a sundial indoors, its shadow projected by memory instead of light. 2:19 p.m., the last time you believed you'd be an astronaut. Each clock catalogs something you've forgotten how to miss. Each one thuds, ticks, or hums with the softness of moments misplaced, not lost. You pause before a cabinet filled with minute hourglasses, each grain a glint of gold. A note pinned beside them reads, "Borrowed time, do not shake." Just ahead, there's an alcove that wasn't there a moment ago. You step inside. The walls narrow gently into a circular chamber quiet as snowfall. And in the center of the room is a single clock on a pedestal. It's unlike the others. Sleek, old, new, all at once. Its hands are missing. Its face is blank, but if you look too long, it starts to resemble your own reflection, only slightly out of phase. A voice, gentle and wry, emerges from the space beside it. That one belongs to a timekeeper who lost their hour. You turn. The speaker is tall, draped in a cloak woven from discarded calendar pages. Their eyes blink in decades, and their smile spans eras. They left it here, they continue, because they misplaced a very specific hour and could never quite recreate it. What kind of hour, you ask? The kind where you almost changed your life, the timekeeper replies, but decided instead to fold laundry, or take a nap, or say, maybe tomorrow. You tilt your head, and it was a bad hour. No, they say it was perfect, just incomplete. They wanted to return it to the clock room, let it sit here until someone else could use it. You glance at the faceless clock again. It vibrates faintly as if tuning itself to your heartbeat. You're welcome to take it, the timekeeper says, if you have a pocket deep enough for possibilities. You hesitate, then nod. They reach into the folds of their cloak and pull out a velvet pouch, like something a magician or baker might use. Gently, they scoop the hour from the pedestal, though you see no object, only the suggestion of weight. They place the pouch into your palm. It feels warm, familiar, the way sunlight feels on your skin in the 10 seconds after stepping outside. Use it when you need a moment that doesn't belong to the rest of the day, they say. Will it change anything, you ask? They shrug. Only you, which tends to be enough. You thank them. They bow not formally, but like someone folding a letter before sealing it. As you leave the alcove, you notice something new in the gallery, a winding staircase spiraling upward into soft orange light. A sign at the bottom reads, "To the Observatory Cafe, stargazing and soup." You climb. The clocks begin to fade behind you. Their ticking replaced by the murmur of distant conversations and the clink of spoons against ceramic. Halfway up, you pause to peek into the pouch again. Inside, the hour glows softly, not with urgency, but with patience. Waiting, you tuck it away and keep climbing. The staircase from the clock gallery winds upward gently, like it's reluctant to disturb whatever dreams you've gathered so far. The golden orange glow grows warmer with each step until it finally empties into a laundry room. But not just any laundry room. This one is vast, ethereal. Steam drifts lazily through the air, like spirits deciding whether to take form. Dozens of old-fashioned drying racks hang from the ceiling alongside futuristic, dehumidifying orbs humming in soft soprano. A gentle, mechanical rhythm pulses throughout, not unpleasant, more like a lullaby set to spin cycle. A sign by the doorway reads, "Laundry Room of Forgotten Futures. Please claim only what you've imagined." You blink. Rows of washing machines stretch before you, but none are spinning. They sit in quiet contemplation, their round doors fogged over as if deep in thought. Each machine has a brass nameplate above it. Plan to learn the violin age. 17. Alternate career path. Lighthouse keeper version of you that moved to Iceland in 2012. The friendship you never initiated. You walk slowly past each one. The air smells of fabric softener and nostalgia. Somewhere, someone is humming a lullaby in a key you almost recognize. To your left, a conveyor belt carries stacks of neatly folded clothing items you don't recall ever owning. Yet they look worn in the way only love or repetition can manage. A sweater that feels like your favorite book. A scarf that smells like mornings you didn't snooze through. Slippers shaped like good advice. One of the machines lets out a polite ding. A hatch opens. A soft pile tumbles into a basket beneath it. A sweatshirt labeled "Unlived Autumns" and socks stitched with constellations that never made it into the sky. You glance to your right and realize there are people here. Quiet, masked figures. Some folding laundry with deliberate tenderness. Others just sitting beside their baskets. Eyes closed, holding one glove or a hat or a jacket too large to ever have worn, but somehow theirs. A woman in a ruffled apron hands you a clipboard. "Claim sheet," she says gently. "We keep track of which futures you've touched. Don't worry, touching doesn't commit you." The paper contains options. Whole imagined timelines. Open a bookstore in Florence. Live on a houseboat. Write poetry, drink tea, adopt a one-eyed cat, and name it Custard. Get very good at repairing old radios. Sleep more, worry less. Learn to knit. You check a few boxes. You don't even hesitate. They all sound familiar, like answers you wrote in a dream survey and forgot to submit. Just leave the clipboard by the folding station when you're ready, the woman says, disappearing behind a stack of cloud-colored towels. In the back corner, there's a lost and found. You wander toward it. A glowing basket sits on a pedestal. A sign says, Unclaimed Daydreams. Please take only what no one else needs. Inside a pair of glasses that let you see how someone once saw the world when they still believed in their future. A pair of mittens that warm not your hands, but your confidence. A small note that simply reads, You were right to hope. You take the note. Just beside the lost and found, an ironing board hovers in midair, pressing out the wrinkles in old plans. Steam rises like forgotten laughter. You watch as a napkin embroidered with the phrase, Next year, for sure, smooths out into a tablecloth titled, Finally. At one point, you stumble upon a row of washing machines marked for regrets. Warm rinse, no spin. They hum quietly, each drum full of what might be small tokens, a too late letter, a silenced idea, a door never knocked on. There's no soap, only silence and gentle water. You sit for a while. Fold a sweater that isn't yours, but feels like it remembers your hands. Eventually, you return your clipboard to the station. A man in coveralls gives you a cloth bag embroidered with your initials. Inside one hoodie from a future where you napped more often and a scarf woven with the courage to pause. As you turn to leave, a dryer clicks open behind you. Inside a robe exactly like yours, but softer, slightly different color, like it belongs to a version of you who forgave yourself sooner. You take it, slip it on. It fits. You pass back through the warm steam, the folding tables, the baskets of alternate lives. A door opens ahead without a sound. No knobs, no hinges, just invitation. On the other side, the corridor flickers with starlight and something faintly citrus-scented. Step through, and just like that, you leave the futures behind and return to the now. Only it's no longer quite the same. You're wearing proof of what might have been, and carrying the note that said, You were right to hope. You don't mean to find the Stone Age lounge it finds you. One moment, you're strolling a hallway of velvet wallpaper that smells faintly of lemons and library glue. And the next, you push through a thick tapestry depicting a mammoth sipping espresso. And you're there. The air shifts, cooler, older, deliciously smoky with a scent like toasted oats, damp earth, and something vaguely roasted that may or may not be time itself. The room is vast and low-ceilinged, carved from ancient stone polished smooth by centuries of curiosity. Soft flickers of firelight dance along the walls, and the floor is scattered with cushions, furs, and thick rugs that look suspiciously like repurposed bear-sized bathrobes. Someone has arranged seating in concentric rings around a central fire pit, though instead of a blaze, it holds a bubbling pot of something golden and sweet-smelling. A sign hangs overhead, painted in a mix of ancient pictographs and cheerful modern script. Midnight picnic, bring your past selves, leave your present hunger. You're ushered forward by a woman wearing a necklace made of fossilized ideas. She hands you a wooden plate shaped like a question mark and smiles. Help yourself. Everything's edible, even the regrets. Low tables, made from stone slabs and petrified wood, are arranged in lazy spirals. Laid across them is an improbable spread of midnight picnic fare. Flint-roasted chestnuts, fire-charred root vegetables, carved into constellations, fruit that might be figs or distant cousins of time travelers. There's a loaf of bread steaming gently beside a dish labeled yesterday's bananas, finally ready. You sit on a rug that hums faintly with approval. Nearby, a child in a saber-tooth hoodie is building a miniature henge out of crackers. Their parent, possibly a Paleolithic poet, judging by the ochre-stained notepad, spreads marmalade onto a rock-shaped scone and offers you a slice. It's warm, not the scone the moment. The Stone Age lounge is louder than you'd expect. Laughter rolls through the space like thunder with no hurry. Conversations in different dialects echo off the stone walls, grunts, giggles, a few ugs that somehow express perfect joy. Two cave artists across from you are painting a collaborative memory on the floor using mashed berries and pigment-stained spoons. One turns to you mid-stroke. Want to contribute a dream? They hand you a brush. You dab a swirl of dark blue and say, "This one's from a nap I don't remember." They nod solemnly. The best kind. In the corner, a gentle bison, actual, not metaphorical, wears a knitted scarf and naps beside a pile of fruit baskets. No one seems to question this. Occasionally, someone slips a slice of melon onto the bison's plate. Time moves differently here. You realize no one's checking watches. There are no clocks. Instead, moments are marked by shifts in firelight, the turning of a stone disc in the ceiling, and the subtle rearrangement of picnic items. A man beside you unwraps something from a bark paper package. Inside a sandwich, layered with nostalgia, bravery, and a thin slice of peppered uncertainty. He eats it without blinking. You look at your own plate. Somehow, it's now filled with things you don't recall choosing, but absolutely crave: cold berries with hot honey bread that crumbles like old love letters, and something labeled prehistoric cheesecake topped with a mystery berry that glows faintly and tastes like the first time you ever got something completely right. Someone nearby pulls out a bone flute and begins to play. Not a melody, really, just a slow series of notes that seem to echo thoughts you haven't had yet. The entire room quiets. Not because it's polite, Because it's full of people who know how to rest, how to share warmth, how to sit near fire and say nothing for long enough that the silence says something back. A woman in fur-trimmed robes leans over with a clay mug. Want to try mammoth milk chai? You sip. It's oddly nutty, with the hint of thunderstorm. Behind you, an elder wrapped in moss-colored wool begins to tell a story, not with words, but with gestures, rhythm, and deep, satisfied sounds. Everyone watches. Some close their eyes. The story flows around the room like water circling a stone. You don't need to understand it. You feel it. A small chorus hums in harmony at the tale's climax, and someone tosses a single pine cone into the fire pot. A soft puff of lavender steam rises. The story ends. No applause, just collective exhale. Your eyes drift to the edge of the lounge where a wide archway opens to the outside, or rather, a simulation of the outside. The stars overhead look impossibly near, as if they've paused just for you. A gentle breeze carries the scent of pine smoke and stories that never got written down. People begin to rise, stretching like well-fed cats. Some collect leftovers in pockets. One woman tucks a fossil-shaped biscuit into her braid. A man folds his napkin into an origami mammoth which ambles off on its own. You stand. The air in the room has shifted. Fuller now, but quieter. As you make your way to the archway, you pass a basket labeled, "Leave a thought you no longer need." Without thinking, you drop in a sliver of worry shaped like a calendar square. It vanishes with a puff of cinnamon. The next room waits, still warm from firelight, still echoing with laughter that somehow predates language, still reminding you that the past isn't behind you, it's beside you, just picnicking. You step through and carry a little prehistoric piece with you. You step through a curtain of hanging beads, each one shaped like a tiny hourglass, and find yourself at the foot of a staircase that winds upward like a question that keeps getting better the longer you think about it. It isn't grand. In fact, it's carved from something that looks suspiciously like driftwood and smells faintly of vanilla and rain. There's no railing, just the stairs, spiraling gently up out of sight. A handwritten sign on a wooden plank leans against the first step. Please climb slowly. Time is soft here. With each step, you grow a little younger. You glance around. There's no one hurrying you. A grandfather clock nearby is ticking backwards. A flower wilts upward in reverse bloom. A paper airplane unflies itself into a folded square on a windowsill. You place your foot on the first stair. Nothing happens. Yet. But with the second step, there's a subtle feeling, like the weight on your shoulders just took a polite break. With the third, the room brightens, not from the light, but from you. You're noticing more. The colors of the walls, the way the wood feels warm under your bare feet, how your hands look somehow more curious. By the time you reach the fourth stair, a memory drifts back to you, unannounced. Something silly. A time you laughed milk through your nose in grade school. You grin without meaning to. Fifth step. The ache in your knees, the tightness in your neck, gone. Not in a dramatic way, just not there. You feel looser, bouncier, like your skeleton has remembered its original design specs. Sixth step. A hum begins to rise from the walls. Not mechanical, not musical. It's the sound of playgrounds, of rain on a window while you draw dinosaurs. It's the hum of a Saturday when nobody needs anything from you. The walls along the staircase begin to change as you climb. Paintings appear. Crayon portraits of people you almost remember. One shows a smiling sun with too many rays. Another is labeled in shaky handwriting, "Me and my future self best friends." You laugh or snort. It's hard to tell which. It feels good either way. Seventh step. You catch a whiff of something unmistakable, glue sticks and warm vanilla cake. Someone nearby must be using scissors with rounded tips. Eighth step. You swear the air feels taller. Ninth. Your voice in your head loses its edge. Less self-editing. More questions. More wonder. 10th step. A mirror waits here halfway up. You look in. It's still you. But the version of you before you worried so much about what people saw when they looked. Your eyes are wider. Your expression a little more open. Your brow is smooth, not because time hasn't asked questions of you, but because you've remembered that not all questions need urgent answers. The staircase continues. The steps ahead look softer now, like they're made of ideas instead of wood. You continue upward. You're not counting anymore. You're skipping one or two, sometimes sitting on a step just to feel how solid it is beneath you. A soft breeze blows downward, smelling faintly of bubble soap and wild strawberries. A chalk drawing appears on the wall. Don't grow up too fast. There's no prize at the top. Eventually, you reach a landing. Not at the top, not at the bottom. Just a landing. There's a bench and a basket of marbles, jacks, and smooth, pocket-warm stones. A small table holds a glass of lemonade that tastes like the first day of summer break. You sit. Let your legs dangle. And for a moment, just a moment, you remember how it felt to believe in treasure maps, in secret hideouts, in the certainty that no matter how late it got, someone would come looking for you with a flashlight and a snack. A soft bell rings somewhere above you, and down the next stretch of steps, you see your robe folded neatly on the banister, waiting. Adult-sized. Time to return. You descend slowly. With each step downward, age returns. But like a soft cloak, not a burden. It brings back your calm, your knowing, your compassion. You're still you, just more of you now, full of both wonder and wisdom. At the bottom of the staircase is a simple door. Etched into it are the words, "You've kept the best parts. Take them with you." You push it open and walk through. The door from the staircase leads to a narrow corridor that smells of starlight and static. You don't question it by now. The logic of scent feels as reliable as any map. Overhead, the ceiling gradually fades into glass, then into nothing at all, revealing a rooftop sky that looks more like a page from a storybook than anything strictly astronomical. You've arrived at the Observatory of Parallel Selves. The rooftop stretches far and wide, ringed with gentle arches of silver ivy and crescent-shaped benches. But what you notice first, what demands noticing, are the telescopes. Dozens of them, no two alike. One is made of polished bone and obsidian. Another is constructed entirely from antique piano parts and wind chimes. Some stand tall like towers. Others curl like sleeping cats. All of them are pointed toward the sky. Only it's not your sky. It's full of stars you've never seen. Some blink in Morse code. Some hum. One or two draw shapes, as if playing a game of celestial charades. A host waits beside the nearest telescope. They wear a cloak stitched with broken compass needles and a hat that appears to be thinking about becoming a cloud. They smile when they see you. "You're just in time," they say, gesturing to the telescope. Tonight's viewing includes several of your other selves. My what? Other versions of you. The ones who made different choices. Or just got very lucky. Or unlucky. Or bold. We keep them up here, safe and warm, for nights like this. You peer into the eyepiece, and there you are. In one telescope, you're a pastry chef in Vienna laughing as powdered sugar floats through the air like snow. Your hands move with muscle memory and mischief. You've burned your thumb, but you don't mind. Another telescope. You're bald, tattooed, and wearing a headset while directing a film on a moon colony. Your voice is calm, firm. People listen. You sip coffee from a thermos labeled Plan G, a third. You live alone in a quiet seaside cottage with an elderly golden retriever and far too many indoor plants. You write letters by hand and walk to the harbor every morning just to say hello to the boats. Each view lasts only a moment before swirling away like a tide of alternate possibility. But none of them vanish. They wait, hovering gently above the horizon, glowing faintly like embers. You try another scope. In this version, you live in a treehouse and you're covered in glitter. Profession unknown. You're reading poetry to a group of attentive owls. The host hands you a warm mug of something fizzy and strange. It tastes like honey and déjà vu. You can't speak with them, they say, but you can wave. You do. One of the versions, bike courier purple hair singing to themselves, waves back. You both laugh at the absurdity and the perfection of it. The sky seems to tilt a little, or maybe it's you. A soft gust of wind swirls around the rooftop observatory, carrying the scent of ink and wood smoke, and that electrical thrill you get when the power flickers but doesn't go out. Farther down the row, a telescope spins slowly on its own. You wander toward it. Inside, you're asleep in a hammock strung between two improbably pink trees. Your expression is peaceful. A book rests on your chest. The title reads, Things Turned Out Surprisingly Well. Another version shows you arguing with a goose, a literal goose. You are clearly losing, but you're smiling while doing it. You chuckle. The host leans in. We don't guarantee dignity, only authenticity. You sit on one of the crescent benches, above the stars, realign into constellations with names like the almost decision, the fork in the road, and the thing you didn't say. You feel full, not just with the lives you've seen, but the permission they offer. Not every version of you is brilliant or brave or wildly successful. Some are quiet, some are silly, some live in basements. One raises goats on purpose. But all of them are you, real, possible, cherished by the stars. A brass telescope taps you lightly on the shoulder. One more, the host says softly. You look, and there's you, here, now, wearing this robe, holding this mug, on this rooftop, but viewed from a few moments into the future. You look at yourself, looking into the telescope, and you smile. Why show me this one, you ask? The host shrugs. Just a reminder, sometimes the most important version of you is the one living this exact moment, with no need to change it. You nod. A bell somewhere in the observatory chimes. Soft, like a spoon, gently tapped against the edge of possibility. The scopes begin to retract. One sighs like it's closing a good book. Another sneezes out a final star. The host offers you a parting gift. A folded paper star that glows with faint memories of laughter you haven't had yet. You pocket it. The wind circles once more, lifting your robe like a curtain call. Ahead, a staircase descends from the rooftop into soft green light. Time to meet the last hallway and the last wonder. The staircase from the rooftop coils downward like a ribbon caught in a breeze. Easy, quiet, as if it's doing its best not to wake anyone who's still dreaming. Your footsteps make no sound on the mossy stone, and even your thoughts seem to soften as you descend. The light shifts from starlit silver to warm butter yellow, and with each turn, the scent of fresh bread grows stronger. You arrive in a room that feels like the end of a story you didn't realize you'd been inside all along. It's the farewell breakfast hall. Sunlight pours through tall, round windows that shimmer ever so slightly, as if the glass remembers other sunrises from other timelines. The ceiling is high vaulted and crisscrossed with beams made from polished wood and slow-moving shadows. Long tables are set with chipped porcelain linen napkins, folded into sleepy animals, and small pitchers of syrup arranged in constellations. A chalkboard near the doorway reads, "Farewell breakfast. Please take something with you and leave something behind." You're greeted by a kindly waiter in an apron stitched with time zones. "You've made it," he says, setting down a cup of tea before you sit. "We thought you might." The table is already laid with quiet abundance. Buttered crumpets that hum lullabies. Berries arranged into the shapes of letters you've always liked. A soft boiled egg labeled simply hope. There's a tiny menu, but it only has one option. Whatever made you feel most like yourself, you choose. Of course you do. And instantly, the dish appears. It might be a bowl of miso soup. It might be the grilled cheese your grandmother made when the power went out. It might be something entirely made up, with no origin but your own comfort. The food is warm, humble, perfect. At the next table, a professor of dreams is buttering toast with a feather. Across from you, a girl in astronaut pajamas is feeding cereal to a small dragon made of mist. No one speaks much, but it's not silence. It's stillness. That rare kind that only happens at the end of something good, where no one wants to disturb the echo of having been here. A waiter clears your plate with a quiet nod. "You'll want to take the next moment slowly," he says, gesturing toward a small hallway at the edge of the room. At the end of that hallway, you see it. The vanishing door. It's tall, pale wood, slightly ajar. No knob, no hinges. Just an open space with morning light pouring through, flickering with hints of all the places you've visited tonight. A trace of lavender from the laundry room, the glitter of the ballroom, the scent of mammoth chai, and that familiar hum of the observatory telescope as it closed its eye. The sign beside it reads, "Thank you for traveling. You may keep the robe," and beneath that, handwritten in ink that's still drying, "The hour you borrowed is yours now. Spend it kindly." Before you pass through, you notice a small wooden box near the door, a place to leave something behind. You reach into your pocket. What you pull out might be a fear, a question, a habit that no longer fits. It might be a version of you that doesn't need to come along. You leave it and step through the vanishing door. Behind you, the room begins to shimmer. The hallway folds like paper. The breakfast table resets itself, and the door begins to gently disappear. Not all at once, not like a puff of smoke, but the way morning fades a dream, not suddenly, but sweetly, as if tucking it in somewhere safe. You look down, still wearing the robe, still holding the folded star from the observatory, still carrying the warmth of a picnic you once shared with a room full of ancestors, still feeling a little lighter from the staircase that aged you backward, still full of a breakfast you didn't know you needed. The Time Hotel is gone, but you're still here, which means the best part of it, the wonder, the softness, the imagination you've brought with you. And that's more than enough. Now just rest. Let the edges of your breath soften like warm honey settling in a quiet cup. The story is complete now, not because it ended, but because you arrived where it brought you somewhere just a little more magical than where you began. You've wandered through inventions and echoing lobbies, shared midnight picnics, borrowed lost hours, and peeked into telescopes that reflect every you could have been. You climbed backward in time to remember the softness in your own footsteps. And in the laundry room of forgotten futures, you gently reclaimed the tenderness of possibilities left folded. Let those memories float now. Not to hold them tightly, but to know they're yours. Yours to revisit in dreams. Yours to reshape. Yours to simply rest beside. And even if the time hotel fades like steam from a teacup, even if the robe eventually becomes just a feeling you remember on quiet nights, that soft hour you carried out with you will remain, tucked in your chest, ticking gently, reminding you that you are allowed wonder, stillness, silliness, and that sleep is not an ending, but a return. So inhale slow, exhale slower. Let the stars you met tonight glow behind your closed eyes. Let the ballroom music drift off. Let the clocks go quiet. You made it back. You're safe. You're home.